While we've got access to this expertise, the people in the AMI that have sort of put their hands up to do some action, which is the speakers basically, we wanted to find out what their next steps were going to be in the next 12 months or so, and if there's anyone here that can help on that. And we've already achieved quite a bit, but we just want to get through the rest of the speakers, and so I can write down some names of who can help them, and then I can put everyone in touch by email, and they can work it out for themselves. So, Mark, have you worked out some next steps?
What do you want me to go over?
Yeah, wait for the microphone.
Well, just like 2 actions that we want to do this year.
What do you want me to go over? I'm a little confused. You're asking me something, and give me a little clearer.
All right. So, would you like to hold a Western conference next year?
Oh, you mean a Western conference?
Yeah.
Probably not. I think the important thing is to get the AMI reorganized and funded.
Okay, fundraising, yeah.
Yeah, for Stephen. I would think that we wait maybe the following year, unless we get funded real quick and we're looking pretty good.
All right.
And I think there's a couple other things to do. So I think fundraising really is going to come first. So do you want me to talk about my fundraising ideas, or what do you want?
Well, who wants to assist Mark with fundraising? And then you can talk about them with those people who want to do it, you know, people who actually want to do it.
Well, nobody wants to do fundraising. You gotta ask people for money. I did that for a living. I'm retired. But I had a whole list of fundraising ideas. Once I find the list, I'll go through it with my memory.
No, I'm not asking you for the list now. I'm just asking who wants to work with you on that so that you can go through it with them. Does anyone here want to be working on fundraising over the next? Yep, Howard Marks.
That's the hard stuff.
And anyone else? We try to get 3 people in a group, and then I think that works out quite well.
Jamie, who did you get to help Mark? Did somebody read?
Howard Marks.
Oh, Howard. Okay, great, thanks.
Howard Marks.
Yeah, for people who don't know Howard Marks, you see that guy right there? You're gonna hear a lot from him.
Karl Marx. Or Gaucho, either one.
Lucille. Okay.
So, I'm going to put Joe, not Joe B, but Joe P on the spot. And I might be wrong in doing this, but I think you had a fabulous idea for fundraising, and more than fundraising, movement building, what you talked about last night. And I did kind of raise the question yesterday about what's the relationship of that to AMI, and I would just, if there's any relationship of it in terms of fundraising to AMI, I would encourage you to join Mark's committee. If that's not clear to you yet, that's fine, and but you know, we need money, and I know that from everything you said and the conversations we had here, that what you're doing with that will be part of monetary reform work. And so I don't care which way it goes.
Joe's on the list.
I'm on the list.
He's on the list.
Right now I'm envisioning Right now, I'm envisioning a standalone. Now, that's not to say we can't do that, but that's just the initial concept. What I want to do like an issue campaign that has enough interest to get enough donations just to continue it. Maybe very basic. Now, at some point, it's gotta be talked about, well, once you get people interested, where do you go? So, I mean, we are gonna, you know, we're gonna have some conversations about where to go with this. This is an initial idea, I mean, it literally come together in the last week, you know? But I think it's got some possibility. But initially, I think we need to, you know, talk about fundraising. Whoa, yeah, nobody likes to do it. It's a pain in the ass, it's hard. Our problem is, we don't have a base. We just don't have a base to fundraise from. And that's where I may be able to help. We need to build the base, we need to build the membership. But in order to do that, we gotta get interest. We need to, you know, back to that way in again, you know. So that's, you know, that's where I'm at right now. So right now, I'm looking at a standalone, I'll fund it myself to get it, the initial, you know, going. I'll throw a grand at it or whatever it takes to get the initial, and then if it's done right and we can catch enough interest, it will self-fund and continue to grow.
Okay, so that is going to be your next step, is it, Joe?
I'm sorry?
That'll be your next step.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna put together a program. I put it down somewhere. I want to have a basic outline, the message, by December 1st. Would you like any help with that from some Chicago-based people here, Joe? What I will do is I'm going to work on it, and then I'm periodically touching base with you guys, and I put it right through a Google group. So here, this is what I got so far. This is, you know, and looking for feedback. So no, you will be involved. You know, it's just I'm going to do to get this done. I need to take it, and I need to go with it. And I do want your feedback, but somebody's got to grab the ball and go. You know, so that'll be me. And then as I get things, you know, developed, or as it's developing, I'll do a best effort on the message. You know, I'm looking at, you know, like if it's broke, let's fix it. You know, reduce debt, taxes, and inequality.
All right, we're just finding out who's doing it. But thanks, Joe. And Howard Marks has put his hand up to help with that as well. So thanks, Howard. You're turning into our action hero. All right. So now, Professor Nick Tiedemann. Have you got any next steps that
He had to go. He had to go on.
All right. Well, there's me.
Discussion of a couple fundraising things. What's the time?
Yeah.
11:35.
I think, well, I've already given my next steps, and I've already actually, Sergio Turner, Dr. Sergio Turner has offered to help me with mine, and so I'm going to be working with
I have an action stuff that I need help with.
Okay.
But with Mark here wants to bring up fundraising. Are we off fundraising now, or are we still on fundraising? Are we on fundraising, or are we off fundraising now? Or are we other fundraising?
Okay, fundraising.
No, I don't know. I mean, or just the action steps. You want to do mine and get mine out of the way?
Get yours out of the way. That's quick.
Thank you. I wanted to, remember I did whereas therefore, I want AMI to have a common authorship, so no specific author, like an AMI book, that even new members can tie themselves to. They can read it, they can make it their own book, so to speak. It should be sort of as best we can, simple language that explains where we are today in our present system somewhat, as best we can, and what the NEED Act is, and what might it look as it's being implemented. You know, what might be the consequences for people putting their money at risk and having no FDIC or that equivalent. So it's to do a little book. I've worked on it. Nick Egnoff is going to help with that, but writers, editors, thinkers, John Howell said, I know, and cartoonists, people ready to think out of the box and have fun. We're going to, you notice how we need animation, we need video on this, so that when we get to the hard concepts of explaining, I've created 3 little characters of A, B, and C to go back how banking systems work. So, but we need creative thinkers for this too.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So you've already mentioned the people that are going to help you, and that's, we've gone through all the speakers now, basically, so yeah, we'll carry it to...
Can I just, I mean, I'm not in the United States. I'm from a different country and a whole different system, but I do want to let people know that I am working on a short documentary film about monetary reform, and it's specifically geared towards really stirring up the public, the grassroots level, because I'm closer to that than to all of you, and just getting people open to the idea and starting the conversation. So just to let you know that that's happening, because film is one of the most powerful mediums.
Yes, thanks for reminding us.
I just wanted to say that the biggest difficulty in organizing, and especially in fundraising, is that it requires a great deal of humility. Preaching is like you have the answer, and they nod their head in agreement, and you've succeeded because you got somebody to agree with you. Humility, asking for help means I need you, not you need what we have. And it requires that first level of humility, and it also you get faced up to the fact that a lot of people, even the people who had been nodding their heads before, are going to say no to you. So you have to have humility, and you have to be able to handle rejection. And that psychological problem is what makes fundraising and organizing difficult. In terms of effort, in terms of just the work involved, it's not hard at all. It's that psychological thing that makes it so very, very difficult.
So since we're out of the box group and nobody else has the guts to do this, my recommendation was, other than the emergency to keep us going, which was the board of directors expansion, and each board of director was required to bring in X amount of dollars, and that would fund us to this level. And maybe you know somebody, but it usually is an ex-insurance man who's retired probably, and who's done all this rejection stuff. Okay, because nobody gets more rejected than a life insurance. And he's about 65 years old, and he's probably somewhat successful if he stayed in the business for a while. And you give him a commission schedule. It's not against the law, it's only against what other charities want you to do. And you give him a commission schedule. I laid it out. We can discuss it, what's the best. And he gets a commission on every dollar he brings in. Now, it might be 20% to start, or 30% to start, or and then it scales down. And all of a sudden, he knows people. He's not afraid of rejection. We do have a base. It's small, but we do have a base, a computer base somewhere. And he just gets on the phone once he gets educated. So if you know anybody, doesn't have to be retired, but per se, but if you know anybody, even if they're looking for extra income, if you know anybody who's good at cold calling and is good with people, usually a life insurance salesman that lasted more than 2 years or 3 years, that would be a perfect person if the board is willing to pay a commission and go against the other philanthropists in the world. He'll succeed because he'd be motivated by money.
So Mark, can you clarify, that's a very helpful statement, because I've read your 2-page thing and I have it somewhere here.
Yeah.
But what you've explained is that this person, they understand the issue enough, but then they are only fundraising.
Right.
They're not doing anything
He's
else.
a salesman, a fundraising salesman, and he's on commission.
On commission, so, but they're not doing any other director
He
roles.
doesn't get paid until the check gets cash. Okay, so if he brings in $100,000, he gets maybe $25,000. See, that's half his salary. If he brings in $200,000, maybe he gets $50,000. Then he starts scaling down a little bit. So he has a base salary and then a bonus. So he gets the first $50,000 as his salary, then above that he gets 10%. So if he brings in an extra $1 million, he gets $100,000. We don't care what we pay him. We brought in $900,000 to our issue. And look at all the things we could do.
That's a great idea, Mark. Thank
Okay.
you. We only got 20 minutes to go,
I'm
so
done.
I'd really like to thank everybody for sticking around and all of the great ideas that we've had, and the enthusiasm has been great. And I'd like to hand over now to Lucy until she has to leave before 12, and then Bob will close the conference. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jamie. It's working. Thank you very much for you to come, to give your input, your ideas, to just to be here to celebrate Stephen's words and work in life. So thank you very much again, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot from you, and you'll hear from us, and things will move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this has been a sort of bittersweet conference. The good part is all this enthusiasm and your attendance, and I want to thank you for that. But the closing of a chapter invites the opening of a new one. As I found out, Stephen Zorlinga showed in The Lost Science of Money, the abuse of credit arises as surely as the need for credit arises in a society, and all societies have used credit as some form of debt. Further back than actually we have writing, because as Graeber revealed in the 5,000 Years of Debt, even non-monetized societies have systems of credit. And somehow this always migrates sooner or later into power, always. Around the time of the Greeks, the temples acted as banks. As the Lacedaemonians were arguing whether to go to war with Athens, somebody could raise the question, where are we going to get the money? Well, our credit is good at the temples, was the answer. So it just goes on and on. And my discovery of this relationship of credit and war backed me into the peace for a considerable time. Because I thought they would really be our allies, but it didn't turn out that way. But we've all heard Aristotle's definition of money that exists not by nature but by law, but what he said later is even more important. We can do anything we want with it, including making it zero. So we can have anything, any damn thing at all that's socially acceptable and physically possible. There's no excuse for it, except human greed or whatever factor it is that turns this thing into exclusive power. It's been going on forever, and that's what we're trying to change. That's why it's so hard. And it's more than, rejection hurts, yes, but it's more than that. There's a resistance to it. The word I used in the opening remarks was inured. We're so inured to the system that we can't imagine something else. This video has been useful to me, and I think it's important to anyone. However, we live in a world that never existed before. And people in the past had no idea what we were going to do and how we're going to do it. So we cannot make progress by backing into the future. We have to turn around and think new thoughts. I think the monetary principles we advocate are sound, but the use of technology and energy has rendered labor far insufficient as a means of distributing wealth. We cannot continue to endlessly expand the use of resources, producing ever more with machinery with more energy. Machines that are not paid wages cannot consume the production. We cannot continue to blame those disenfranchised by that process, probably called increased productivity, as though it is their own fault for not competing.
I'm not a Luddite. Use everything safe that we have by all means, but distribute the production by some other means than labor and enslaving debt. We must forget to double think that competition will solve any problem. Competition creates losers. Yes, of course, there are winners, but how many losers does it take to create a winner? In Olympic sports, for example, hundreds, perhaps thousands have lost for one gold medal. But sports is one thing, life is another. We cannot continue to allow wealth to accrue to the absentee ownership of corporate stockholders who produce nothing and cannot consume the production. The Romans proved that folly millennia ago. I don't know what the carrying capacity of planet Earth is, but I'm familiar with the process of exponential growth. I've used this line before, unfortunately. Paraphrasing Kenneth Boulding, only fools and economists believe that you can have infinite expansion in a finite world. I agree, but I ask why the redundancy. Abstract numbers have no limit. If you think infinite is real, add one to it. Real things have limits. One of Zarlinga's suggestions was that economics should be decertified as science. As I learned in Economics 101, assumptions are not scientific, nor are they theories in any scientific sense. Current economics assumptions are not scientific. They are mere assumptions at best and superstitions at worst. Having learned from the past, then we must look forward. At my level of corporate management, the ethic and measuring period was a quarter year. You've heard it endlessly, the quarterly bottom line. A little higher up, they talked about ROI, return on investment. Now at the highest levels of corporate management, the stock price dominates. Stock prices can vary in microseconds, and we must think in generations and centuries. We must also be prepared to change if we err. We cannot fly blind into the future with wishful thinking, make-believe, magical thinking, and ideological illusions that must give way to real data in real time. New paper, all this stick. Thank you. And technology is being used against us in general, not necessarily as monetary formers, but against everyone. There will be resistance. You can expect that as we gain influence, if not already, there will be agents for provocateurs in our midst. The American Monetary Institute made a great move getting the NEED Act introduced. It was never brought to a vote and is no longer a bill before Congress. Stephen, with his dedication and dynamism, is gone. We must step up and do things. There have been many ideas talked about, ideas per se are chimerical. Only action makes things happen. Our actions must remain true to the founding principles, independent research, morality, and scientific methodology. I must thank Lucianne, Jamie particularly, and Stephen Walsh for all their help. Thank you.